All right, we're back. Hey, welcome back. This is the Q&A session for the sacrifices that you're going to make. Now, look, if you didn't get to see the Q&A, if you didn't get to see that the podcast on the sacrifice um, whenever you decide to live in Costa Rica, make sure to go and watch that. It is jam packed full of some amazing, awesome information. And I like to answer questions at the end, but hey, it was so jam packed full of some really, really great information that I didn't have a chance to. So decided we'll do a Q&A. So that's what this is. So if you found this Q&A, Q&A might not make any sense to you unless you've watched the sacrifices that you're going to make if you choose to live in Costa Rica. So welcome back, folks. Welcome back to the Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast, where we're going to do the Q&A. And so I'll tell you what, go ahead and put in your questions, and I'll start going from the top down to the bottom, and I'll answer your questions. Hey, first off, tell me, did you guys enjoy this session? I know that was long, jam-packed. I hardly got a chance to breathe, and I was trying to just really go through there, and I was really trying to make it just matter of fact, not a complaint session, not a groaning session, but I matter of fact, this is how life's going to be, depending on where you're going to live in Costa Rica. Now, because it is going to be different where you live at. Matter of fact, I love what Esquire says right here. Esquire says, Alan, you need to spend some time up here in Atenas. The next time you come to San Jose or Nicaragua, drop by, spend a week in our guest house. We have a totally different experience. Now, Esquire, if you are serious about that, I'd love to be a guest in your guest house. Now, if you're selling me an Airbnb, well, I got plenty of Airbnbs to go to. But if you're saying, hey, come stay in our guest house, and we'd love to kind of share with you our experience, I would love to be up there, and I'd love to even make a video about it if that's cool with you. I'd love to come up, and if you're serious about it, so contact me. You can go to the link below in the description there where you can be a subscriber. You can you'll get an email from me, immediately email back to give me details. I'd love to find out. Because the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of expats living in the Antennas area, and it is different. When you're living in that area, you're not, it's more developed in that area. You have access. San Jose is not that far away. You can go buy stuff. It's typically going to be a little more expensive because there are more expats in that area, but absolutely, I'd love to come up and spend a few days or a week with you and find out how life is in Antennas and share that on the channel. So if you're serious, hey, make sure to send me an email and contact me, buddy. I'd love to come and see what's happening your way. So check out Evelyn says, does anybody know if Alan's paid his Starlink internet service this month? Yeah, I paid it all right, but we had a lot of outages, a lot of buffering this time because, I'm just too nice a guy. I share my internet with my neighbor. And so my neighbor that's a couple of 100 yards away, his daughter, we live way, way up in the middle of nowhere. He's the only neighbor I got. But his daughter is going to college online. And she knows that, hey, at 4 o'clock is my lives. You can't be sucking my internet. Okay, this is my internet. I know I give it to you and I share it. It's my internet. Well, she has a test today. So, from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, she was on the internet. So she's probably done by now, or I hope she is. But anyway, she had a test. And so she knows that, hey, you can't have my internet at 4 o'clock. That's my time. So I normally kick everybody off my internet on the lives. But she had a test, so I couldn't kick her off. And anyway, I share my internet with my neighbors. My neighbors come up here, and they use my internet all the time for whatever stuff they need. So that's why we had a lot of buffering today. The Starlink here really is not bad, but when it comes to streaming, it does take a lot. And like Esquire saying, they have telecable, 300 down, 300 up. And, so when you get into nicer areas, you can get a lot better service. I'm in a very remote area, lived in a lot of remote areas where there's really no service. And I had to pay for extremely high service for other stuff. So anyway, it is a big difference depending on where you're at. So put your questions in the chat box. And hey, Evelise wants to know what type of water is Alan drinking. Man, this is called my crystal beer. Oh, man, this is good stuff. Good stuff. Alcohol content is 0. It's good stuff. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag on that a little later as to why I don't have my typical Allen's apple juice. And I'll talk about that later. I can't let the cat out of the bag on that right now, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Ruth says, yes, the session was good and pretty accurate. So she says it's pretty accurate. So obviously Ruth must share the sentiment. She obviously lives in Costa Rica or has experience. So absolutely. Hey, Esquire replied back, said he's serious. The guest house is free. I'd absolutely love to come up there and maybe even do a video on this whole thing so I can share it live on the podcast. So he says, yeah, the area is more expensive and you and the wife are welcome, more than welcome. We've watched you for years. Hey, well, I'm excited. And I know my wife will be excited to go there and check it out. Would love to be up there for a week and just see what's happening. So, hey, let's talk about all these different things here. And, of course, there's lots of questions. There's not a whole lot of questions in the chat box right now. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up my notes and the notes that I had. So, what are some of the things, the sacrifices? You will make a lot of sacrifices. Traffic is totally different. Big difference. So, let's take a look right here. So William shares right here. He says, since his wife has gotten a visa for the good old U.S., I'm planning on building a garage and a shop here. A 30 by 40 foot roll up door. Your thoughts, block, steel, roof extending out the front. Now, if I were you, depending on where you're living at, William, but regardless of where you live at, if I were you, I would build steel. Okay. I would build steel. And, if you're going to build a big 30 by 40, I actually built a 30 by 40. Let's see. I don't think it was quite 40 foot. I want to say it was probably, I think maybe it was 20 and a little more than 20. Anyway, I built a shop about that size when I was in Louisiana and all out of metal. And you can really build up a shop all out of metal cheaper than you can anything else. And I definitely wouldn't do it out of wood. You could do it out of blocks, but you know what? You come out cheaper, and I think you'd just be happier building it out of steel. Anyway, that's just my thought right there. And I think you would enjoy it. The problem with the cement is it's going to crack. And Costa Rica is full of, it's earthquake prone. They're not huge earthquakes, lots of tremors. But if I were you, I'd build it out of steel, and you'll never have to worry about cracks, okay? Ruth says, now in parts of Canada, it's against the law to go into the woods. That's hard to believe. Can I go into the woods there? Or is it too controlled? Now, here's what's amazing about Costa Rica. And that's, I love having the freedom. Isn't it insane that you can't go into the woods, you can't have a garden, and you can't have chickens? You got to have a license to have chickens in some places in the United States. Well, in Costa Rica, there are just jungles all over the place, okay? And yeah, you could go in the woods. There's you can go in the jungle. There's trails all over the jungle. Now, keep in mind, no way. Ruth says a $25,000 fine if you go into the woods or the jungle. That's insane. The world is going nuts, okay? So anyway, in Costa Rica, yeah, there's lots of jungles, and I go all over the place. Now, keep in mind, somebody does own the property, and you need to respect that. However, there's trails all over the place, and people are walking these trails, hiking these trails. Even on my property here on 1,000 acres, I got trails all over this place, and the locals are going on the trails all the time. The local people don't respect boundary lines. In the United States, we got boundaries. We respect boundaries. You can actually put signs up that says no trespassing, and I suppose you could do that in Costa Rica as well. I don't think the locals would respect it because the locals will walk in your yard, pick your tomatoes, pick your lemons, pick your oranges. Very, very different. You got to train your neighbors. Don't you walk in my yard and pick my bananas. I'll go nuts on you, okay? And then it causes problems. So yeah, that's one of the freedoms I love in Costa Rica. There's trails. I have discovered waterfalls that even the people that lived a mile away didn't know the waterfall was there, because they don't go explore, and I'm hiking all over the place. So I've hiked all over Costa Rica in some of the craziest places in the world. So yeah, you definitely can enjoy. If you like hiking and going in the woods, you can definitely do that. You can't hunt. You can't hunt. Now you can hunt with your camera, but you can't hunt. Can't use what? There's no hunting in Costa Rica. Wow. So now Tess has a good question. It says, Ruth, I read about that. And she wants to know, does that include if your own property has woods, right? Could you go in your own woods, or is that kind of like a no too? That's a good question, Tess. I'd like to hear that answer, Ruth. Maybe Ruth knows the answer. Maybe she don't. So anyway, what other questions do all of you folks have here? Costa Rica is very, very different. The people are very different, okay? And look, I've got some really good friends. Matter of fact, my neighbors, they're good people. But they're very, very different from the typical Costa Ricans. And that's because they've been living up here in the middle of nowhere. These are some people that have been off grid their whole life. I'm talking about my neighbors have never had a hot shower up here. Matter of fact, I'm the only person within probably a 10, 15 mile radius that has hot water. Nobody has hot water up here, okay? And they just don't. And it's cold water here. It's cold. Matter of fact, I'm the only person up here in a 10, 15 mile radius that has a refrigerator. And why is that? Because there's no electricity in the 10 to 15 mile radius, okay? So, and without electricity, while they might have a solar panel or two, that's enough power for some lights. It's not enough power to run hot water system, not enough power to run a refrigerator, not enough power to run, a TV for very long, okay? So it does make a difference. And so, those are things that you got to be careful, okay? Oh, wait. Tess says, I wasn't asking. She says, it does. If you got woods on your own property, so you're telling me if I got 100 acres and I've only cleared out a spot for my house and the rest of it is woods so that I can go hunt on it, I can't go in the woods on my own property? She says it does. Now that's insane. Dang, that's nuts. William says, I bought a crossbow in my checked luggage for fishing. Wow. You brought a crossbow? Well, I guess that's okay. Wow. Tess says, bingo. That's nuts. Man, look, I've heard a lot of horrible things about Canada. If I were you guys, I'd leave Canada in a heartbeat, man. Woof, I couldn't live in Canada. Now, William, that's a good idea. He brought a crossbow. Now, William, what are you going to, for fishing. So I can see why they would allow that. Now, there are armorias, okay, and that's just an armory where you can go and you can get guns and rifles and pistols and things like that. Hardly ever see a shotgun, and you got to have a permit and you got to get licensing and all of that stuff to go get that stuff. But you can even go buy a pellet gun. Now, pellet gun, you don't have to have a permit because the pellet gun, and I won't go get my pellet gun because the last time I showed my pellet gun, YouTube took me down in a hurry, okay? Because I didn't know they got a rule that if you're doing a live, now you have channels, and there's channels that make all kind of videos and they record a video holding a gun, but I can't do a live. And I guess YouTube's afraid that if you're doing a live, I might shoot somebody or kill myself or something stupid like that. So if you're doing a live, you can't be holding it. I can have it on the wall, but I can't be holding it. So anyway, you can buy a pellet gun. At some of the hardware stores, you can buy a pellet gun. Don't need a license. Now, the bad thing about a pellet gun, it's a one shot. So you better be one shot, one kill. So you can open it up. You can stick one pellet in there. You can close it, and it's a pretty strong gun. You can probably kill a few birds. You're not going to kill. You might kill a squirrel. Illegal. Don't go and do it. But be careful. But anyway, my point is you can go buy a BB gun. You can buy a few things that's not required to have a permit. But for most guns, you got to have a permit. And so Doug says the reason for that whole woods thing in Canada is because of forest fires in only one province. So they had some forest fires in one province, and everybody's paying for one bad turd. Yeah, I understand. Now, Ruth says you can walk on your own private property in the woods, but not your guest. Wow, that's interesting. So you can walk in the woods, your guest can't go. So, and Ruth saying, Doug, it's in New Brunswick now too, and Nova Scotia. Wow. Okay, so the retardedness is going crazy. And Rob and Laura agree. Says that's only in the province of Nova Scotia due to the idiot perimeter. The idiot premier. That's funny. That's funny. So how nuts? Oh, and Tess says, hey, Ruth, the video I saw, they were saying they don't want you in your own woods, but it's not the citizens starting fires. Remember how they turned the water off during the fires? That's interesting. We got fires. We're going to turn the water off. Hey, William says, are there any rivers suitable for a John boat? There are a few rivers. So there's the Tarcoles River. The Tarcoles River has a lot of crocodiles in it. It's the most polluted river in all of Costa Rica. Okay. And, but it is suitable for a John boat. There is another river down close toward, getting close to, it's close to Potrero Grande. So it's on the very south side. And it's a big river. You can get a John boat in that. The majority, that's a good question, William, because the majority of the rivers in Costa Rica don't hold fish, and you couldn't put a John boat in it. Now, almost every river, there might be a place that holds water, and you might get some small fish. And I've seen people trying to catch some fish. They're nothing big, but there are a couple of rivers that I've seen, that I've been to, that you could put a John boat in. So, matter of fact, pretty soon, I'm planning on going to, I think it's called the Salvage River, but it's a place where you can do some trout fishing. And I'm willing to bet that you could get a John boat in there. I think that river's big, but I don't know. But I'm going to find out. So I can't wait to find out. But there's not a lot of rivers where you can put a John boat in and go fishing. Most of the actual fishing done in Costa Rica, it's not done in lakes. It's not done in rivers. Most of the fishing done in Costa Rica is done in the salt water. It's done in the ocean. That's most of the fishing. So Esquire said that an attorney told him he couldn't bring his Masonic sword that his stepdaddy left him. And, Costa Rica has some pretty weird stuff. You can walk around with a machete on your side. You can walk into grocery stores. I was fixed to say banks, but I don't think I've seen anyone walk into a bank with a machete. But man, look, a machete is a machete and a pair of rubber boots. That's just the end thing in Costa Rica. But you can't have a Masonic sword displayed in your house. Go figure. So, hey, Esquire says, now, there are a few lakes, like Lake Arenal, Costa Rica's version of peacock bass. I would love to try fishing. That's probably one of the things that I really do miss about not living in the United States. I enjoyed freshwater fishing. Man, ain't nothing better than trying to get me a big old bass or catching some brim or some white perch. Because my house used to be on the lake. I used to have a house on the lake when I had my grocery store. And then I bought another house that was in the woods. And I love fishing. Okay. But I don't get to go fishing much here. Now, I did do some great fishing, saltwater fishing, caught a bunch of mahi, but just about have eaten all that mahi. William says he found a decent lake near Esperanza, and I would love to boat. No crocs. Hey, it sounds like a good place to go. Esquire says, yeah, they wouldn't let me have the sword, but I got a machete. Ain't quite the same, but I understand. Tess says, Alan, they turned the water off during the fires too. And the recent fires in Cali where the celebrities live, they emptied the reservoirs. Something's going on for sure. Hey, I agree with you 100%. Unfortunately, there's some billionaires that's got too much money and not enough sense. And they're trying to control everything. So, yeah, I agree with you. There's all kind of fishy stuff's going on in the United States, especially with the weather. And I really think that what they're doing there is having an effect a side effect to the weather in Costa Rica. Because look, this past week, it's been like summer. We're in the middle of rainy season, yet we didn't hardly get any rain. And I've actually had a couple of bonfires sitting at the fire, and that never happens during rainy season. The wood's wet. I don't never get to have a bonfire. I have to wait till summer. So there's a lot of things that have changed, okay? So Tess says, how many volcanoes you got in Costa Rica? So there's a lot of volcanoes in Costa Rica. A lot of the mountain ranges are created from the volcanoes, hundreds upon thousands of years ago. There are actually a few active volcanoes over around the San Jose, not too far away from the San Jose area, okay? So I don't know the exact number, but there are quite a few volcanoes in Costa Rica, a lot of them actually, okay? Esquire says he's fished bass in FLW for years. Not sure where FLW is. I don't know if you're talking about in Florida or some other place. So, hey, I'd like to know where is FLW. But anyway, I was hoping because there was a lot of questions, and I'd love to answer your questions today. Hey, Prince has a good question. How do you keep perishable food from spoiling? Refrigeration on solar or generator? So now me, I've got not a great big refrigerator. I've got a medium-sized refrigerator, and I've got solar right now. I got 6 panels, and my solar system's not great. When I went to Miami, I brought back some stuff so I can install hydro. But hey, you don't even have to have hydro. You can have an adequate solar system that can run your refrigerator. I've got a refrigerator and a great big, huge 7-foot freezer because when I cook, I like to cook a whole lot of stuff. So none of my stuff perishes. Now, what about the neighbors? Well, my neighbors that use my internet, they a lot of times have tourists that come in and out and go hiking on their property and stuff. I let them actually use my freezer. So me and my neighbors are real close, okay? I help them, they help me, and they buy whatever meat and they put it in the freezer. And I don't think they hardly eat their own meat or stuff. They use it for the tourists. But the question is, how does my neighbor keep all of his perishable food from spoiling? Well, number one, they only buy what they can eat before it ruins. But I remember last year, whenever we had a bunch of landslides on the road, and I let my neighbors know, I said, look, I'm going to town. I'm going to get some stuff, and I know you can't make it out of town. Would you like me to bring something back? Well, my neighbor's father, 80-year-old guy, he loves chicharrones, okay? And he wanted me to bring him back like 5 kilos of chicharrones. And I'm like, dude, you can't eat all that before it goes bad. Well, he's an original homesteader. This dude came back here before anybody. He was the first person back here, and they still cook on a wood fire stove. So he's got some racks above his wood fire stove, and he cooks up chicharrones to eat what he wants. And then what's left over, he hangs it over his wood fire stove, and it naturally, the heat, it dries, okay? So it lasts long enough. It doesn't spoil, in other words, and it might be there a week, okay? But it's drying over the fire, and he cooks what he needs, and he eats it. So anyway, that's how some people are doing it up here. But most people, since they don't have a refrigerator, they only buy what they can eat before it spoils, okay? So can you imagine? The people up here drinking cervezas ain't had a cold beer in a long, long time. So that's interesting. Now, Tess says, how often does electricity go out? Now, thank goodness I'm on solar. Mine never goes out. But in Costa Rica, electricity goes off. Let me tell you how much it goes off. Every day. Okay, maybe not quite every day, but it probably blinks every day. The electricity goes off all the time. The water goes off all the time, because when they put in the infrastructure, they didn't think about putting in multiple places and cutoffs. So one new house, or they got to go work on something that's busted, they turn off the water for the whole community, okay? And then you're out of water for 2 or 3 hours or a half a day or all day, okay? The electricity will go out. And, a line falls, a tree falls, and it might, and look, once again, they're not considerate of other people. They go and do their job, and they're in no hurry. So the electricity might be out all day. But most of the time, I mean, the electricity does blink a whole lot, a lot. Sometimes it comes right back on. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 minutes, comes back on. So I always suggest, if you like the internet and you're like me, you use the internet a lot, make sure that your router, your modem is plugged into a battery backup system so that whenever the electricity is constantly blinking on and off, then your computer doesn't shut down, reset, and you lose all your work. Buy you a battery backup and make sure that your computer and all that stuff is plugged into the battery backup. Your modem is plugged into the battery backup. That way, when the electricity blinks, your internet doesn't go out, your computers don't shut off, and you can pick up right where you left off at. Okay. Now, Evelyn's asked a great question. Do you guys have hurricane season in Costa Rica? No such thing. Matter of fact, as long as they've been recording, they've never had a hurricane ever hit landfall in Costa Rica. Okay, never. Now, hurricanes are humongous, right? And because they're so huge, they've been close enough that we've gotten a lot of rains from them. Not me personally. It's over on the Caribbean side. On the Pacific side, there's never, ever a hurricane coming that way. On the Caribbean side, you'll get hurricanes coming from that side because that weather pattern is totally different. But they've never hit landfall in Costa Rica. As far as I know, there's never been any real tornadoes like we have tornadoes in the United States. No real tornadoes. Okay. So, the only natural disaster you're going to experience in Costa Rica is normally going to be earthquakes, flooding in some places, and that's really about it. Earthquakes and flooding. Maybe volcanoes if you're too close, right? So just not a lot of natural disasters, which makes it really, really nice. They do get some hard rain sometimes, and that's what causes the flooding. And Esquire says, that's why we put solar. We don't even notice it now. And when you have a good solar system, it's awesome. You don't have to worry about a lot of headaches with electricity going off. It's so nice, And like Esquire said, all right, buffering. I think my neighbor's off. Tess says, Alan, did you put in a water catchment system? I heard you say something about a water system you were building. So I'm constantly working on my water system, and I didn't put in a water catchment system. Would probably be a good idea, but I'm probably going to put in a catchment system that's going to help water the gardens and stuff like that, because rainwater is better for your garden than actual. I got an unlimited supply of water that comes from rivers, with a lot of rivers on this property. Okay, so I've got an unlimited supply. My water, I got the cleanest water in all of Costa Rica. I mean, it's crystal clear. There's no taste to it. It tastes like water. Water's not supposed to have a taste in it. And that's one of the things you can't get in the United States. In the United States, they're treating the water, constantly putting chlorine, all kind of chemicals in it. It's terrible, okay? But I've got the cleanest water. I actually, I'll have to do a video and show you. I actually see the water coming out of the rocks from my artesian well. So I've got some of the cleanest water in the world, but my water goes about a mile up the mountain, flows a mile down in a rubber hose, in a hose, and comes into my system. So I have a great system. I actually have a little filter underneath my sink, for drinking water and stuff. I really don't need it. And for years, I just drank it straight out of the tap. But hey, sometimes a little bit of sediment and sand comes in. It ain't much, right? So, landslides. I forgot to mention that. As far as natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, landslides. Landslides, and he said he meant to say mudslides, but you get a lot of landslides in Costa Rica. That's a natural disaster that I'm glad you brought that out, Esquire. So Anyway, you get a lot of landslides, and a lot of landslides are because the Ticos are clearing the land up above it, which causes landslides below it. And so anyway, Doug said solar is great, and we also have a solar hot water system. Matter of fact, which is really neat because I was shocked this past week. I was in San Jose taking care of some stuff, my residence and stuff. Stayed in an Airbnb, and if you know anything about Costa Rica, almost nowhere, maybe in San Jose, the metropolitan area, the only place you're going to find hot water in most cases is in the shower. Most of the time, that's going to be a suicide shower. Some places do have a small instant hot water, runs off electricity for the shower, but almost nobody runs hot water into the sink, and definitely in the bathroom sink, and definitely not into the kitchen sink. I actually rented an Airbnb a few days ago. I was shocked when the kitchen sink had hot water. I was like, what? These people, the owners must not be Ticos. They were, but I was shocked. And they actually had a washcloth. In America, I think most people use a washcloth to bathe with. And they actually had washcloths there. Very few I've rented a lot of B&Bs. Very few have that. So anyway, but I got on the rabbit trail. Solar hot water system. I have instant hot water, but my instant hot water comes from propane, okay, which is great. But I want to install me a solar hot water system up here on the homestead. I think that would be great. Hey, I agree. I got to get them kids off my internet. They probably are streaming TikTok, YouTube. See, William says, unlike Nicaragua, I was thinking about a tank here. Now, here's what a lot of people should do, because the water does go off. Hey, install you a tank, and you don't have to have a huge tank. You can have a tank that's just, get one of the smallest water tanks. 55-gallon drum would work, okay? But if you install a water tank, at least if you want to take a shower, you can. At least if the water is off for a couple hours, you can flush the toilet. At least you can wash dishes. So anyway, there's there's ways to get around the constant water going off, and it's not expensive, and it's not hard at all to install a water tank. Okay. Now, Alan Tico says, Tico Soon says, what brand solar system and equipment do you have? Okay, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked. Okay, now I'm not going to tell you what brand I have because I honestly couldn't tell you. I could go and look at it, but I will tell you that the guy that installed my solar system, I used to think he was good. His name is Caesar. He's with DC Solar. Don't use the guy. He's a crook. A lot of people have used him, and he seems to be good, and he can install some high-end stuff, but when he can't, he's a crook. He's a crook. He's a crook. Okay, and I know from personal experience. Okay, but there are several other people. Now, I went to the United States and I bought some new equipment. I'll be doing a video about that later. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you, but I have a system now that the inverter can handle the solar panels and the hydro. And I don't know that there's anybody in Costa Rica. There probably is somebody. But DC Solar, I told him up front, I wanted something that can handle hydro and solar. He's like, oh, no, hydro sucks. Hydro ain't no good. Blah, blah, blah. Well, he said hydro's no good because he don't know anything about hydro. And then he sold me some stuff that didn't work. And anyway, I don't want to go into all that crap. He's a crook. Don't use DC Solar. That's Caesar. Don't use him. He does a lot in San Isidro. He does a lot in the San Jose area, Guanacaste. Be careful. So Tess says, landslides. Oh, yes. I often wonder how people have the guts to buy homes on the edge of a hill that obviously had a recent landslide. And it's easy to tell. I just don't get it. You're absolutely right. Ticos have this strange mindset. I don't think they have a fear of dying. I don't know. Maybe they just don't believe in life after death. I don't know. But you know what? I actually, just exactly like you, Tess, I saw one house where, you could see it sliding and sliding. And it was getting closer and closer to the house. And the people didn't move. And then guess what? One day, their house slid. And guess what? Some of them died. I don't get it. I don't get it. They got a different mindset. So Esquire says, we just gave away a solar hot water system away and we replaced it and it was still working. So did you replace it with a better solar hot water system, or did you not like the solar hot water system and you installed instant hot water or something different? I'd be curious to know. So Doug says the hot water is throughout the house. It takes a minute or two to get the hot water to the fixture, but it's almost steaming in a few minutes. Absolutely. Of course, my place is still brand new, but I have instant hot water propane, and I'll eventually have hot water throughout the whole house. Right now I don't have a shower in the house. My shower is still outside and I have hot water. So anyway, big difference. You don't, when you come to Costa Rica, you don't have to live like a Tico. Now, you know what? It's important to respect the culture, respect the people, even though they're not respectful of you. You got to respect them. You're a guest in the country. But guess what? I didn't move to Costa Rica to be a Tico soon. So, hey, this guy says a Tico soon. I would never say that. I don't want to be a Tico. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to have fought for my country. Ticos, I got some good Tico friends. I don't want to be a Tico. They got a way different mentality. Even a lot of my Tico friends wish they weren't Tico. It's just a different mentality, okay? So you just have to. Esquire shares, for someone that asked about brand, says, hey, check out Eco Blue Solar. So there you go, Tico Soon. You was asking about what brand solar system? Well, Esquire shares Eco Blue Solar. The guy's name is Steven. He says he's great. So there you go. Write that down, Tico. Tico Soon. Write that down so that you can do some research on Google. Maybe get a hold of him, okay? So Esquire answered his question. He gave away a solar hot water system. It was working, but he says the tank was Chinese and it had limits to the pressure. And so we got one with no limiter. So he upgraded to a better system. When you buy stuff in Costa Rica, you got to really do your research and find out what you're getting, because you might have all kind of problems. So Emily's asked, do you have poisonous snakes or panthers in your area? Yes and yes. So we do have big cats in the area. We do have panthers. We have jaguars. We do have, big cats here. We do have poisonous snakes, but not a lot. Where I live at, the altitude is so high and it's so cold. Snakes don't like cold weather. So there's not a lot of snakes in the area, but there are some. Okay, and there are some poisonous snakes. However, when you do your research, the type of poisonous snake, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but anyway, they're not supposed to be up here if you search Google. But I guess the people forgot to ask the snake if they were up here, because they're up here. Anyway, it's funny as heck. So yeah, there are lots of panthers, and Tico says, hey, thanks guys. So yeah, a lot of panthers, a lot of snakes, not a lot of snakes, a few snakes. Okay. Now William says, I hadn't seen a snake since 2013. And that's what's cool is, I keep my place pristine. I like to keep the grass cut. I like everything beautiful. So you know what? I hardly ever see snakes. Now, when I go in the jungle, yeah, I see a few snakes, but I'm in the jungle and I've been like this close to some poisonous snakes, but I'm very, very careful. Esquire says that he's relocated 3 snakes. Yeah, I relocated some too. As a matter of fact, I relocated a Fear de Lance. And I relocated him. I relocated him in the ground. So I don't suggest killing anything if you don't have to. But you know what? You got children. You got family. I don't want to take a chance because, snakes, they don't respect boundary lines. And they'll come on your boundary and they don't think twice about it. So I got pets and I got family, and I'm going to make sure they're safe. So, yeah, I had to relocate him the hard way. So anyway, man, I can't believe it's 40 minutes already. Time flies when you're having fun. And man, it's time for an apple juice break. I mean, a crystal beer break. Man, this is good stuff. I absolutely love living in Costa Rica. And like I said, there's a lot of things I hate, a lot of things I don't like. However, when you're able to control your environment, I can control my environment. I got one bad neighbor. and he's the owner that owns this property. Okay, and he's just an old senile, cuckoo, crazy guy. And you know what? And he's always doing the wrong thing, but I'm always helping him. You know, even when he does wrong to me, I'm always trying to do the right thing. The guy goes nuts when I cut my grass because he don't want me cutting my grass. So he actually put sugar in the gas tank of my lawnmower because he didn't want me cutting grass. He's just a horrible guy. And he asked me to come live out here to protect the property because he had a heart attack and the locals were going to steal his property. Okay. So even though he's kind of cuckoo, I still protect the property. I take care of it because he's going to die one day and his son's going to inherit it. And that was the deal I made. I get to live here for free. And, but I protect the land for his son who's one day going to inherit it. Okay. Tess says, I need that recipe for your famous banana wine. One day I'm going to share that. Matter of fact, it's time for me to make some banana wine. And look, my banana trees have got some, my banana trees are putting on some bananas, boy. Woo, they're taking off like crazy. And man, you talk about good. Man, that banana wine is the best stuff in the world, dude. I hadn't found any wine better yet. Man, that's good. You're going to have to get a hold of me. I'll share that one day. So, folks, hey, but hey, I've already been 42 minutes, and hey, that's probably all the questions. I should probably call it a day. And folks, if you've got any last-minute questions, now's the time to put it in the chat box. But hey, I greatly appreciate y'all showing up. I'm surprised this many people showed up after the actual podcast is over. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, next week, I think we're going to get right back on the building series I was working on. And we're going to be talking about different types of building materials that we're building on. I think that's where we left off at. So Esquire says, where's the contact information? Look in the description below. It's not going to be on this one, obviously, because I didn't fill out none of that stuff. Go to any of the other videos. Click on the description where it says see more info. And down there, it's going to say that you can click this link so you can subscribe to get my newsletter. So anyway, you can click that link. So just look down in any description and you can click on that link. And then you'll immediately get an email from me. And then you can reply to it. Okay. William says, hey, all right, we got to make a trade on wine. That sounds like a deal. Are you making some wine, William? Because I'll sure trade you some of my good wine and try some of your good wine. All right, folks. Hey, it's been another great Q&A. I'm so glad that y'all were here. Can't wait to see you guys again next week. Same time, same station, same channel. The only channel giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly about living in Costa Rica. And that's the Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast.